Okay, let's start our candidates night, and I think we have the biggest group we've ever had, at least in my memory. That is 6 candidates for one office, all at the same time. And so this event is sponsored by the Athens County Public Libraries and the League of Women Voters of Athens County. And what we're hoping to do is to give all of you a totally even-handed opportunity to present yourself, your background, your qualifications, your ideas. And we have at random selected the order in which opening statements will be made, in which we go through the questions and so on down through. The mathematicians would calculate, I think, that with 6 individuals, the total number of different orders in which they can address questions is 720. We won't get very far toward that. And so probably we should have as little ceremony, if you will, and get right into the meat of this. The opening statements will be 2 minutes in length, and we have the world's best timekeeper, Muriel Grimm, out there, so she will let you know. We'll promptly cut you off if necessary. Then we'll have questions from the media, 1 round of questions from the media tonight, because we have so many candidates involved, and those will be 1.5-minute responses. And then the closing statement, again, the order selected at random, 2 minutes apiece. So 2 minutes open and close, 1.5 minutes for each of you for each question. And I will attempt to make sure the candidates know who's going to answer next, because I got out a random number table to work this through, so there's no particular predicting. With a little luck, what I've handed you will help you. 1 sheet for 2 people to catch the order, but I will do my best to let you know who's coming up, and if you need to ask, please do. So with that, why don't we just get into this? And Steve Patterson will call upon you for your first 2-minute opening statement. Go right ahead.
Right now. All right. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to especially thank the League of Women Voters for having this. It's a great venue. I'm excited to be here. My wife and I want to thank her for all the hard work that she has done. We've been beating the pavement. She had a pedometer on me on a number of our travels up and down through the neighborhoods. And combined, we figured that with the 2 of us, it's been about 80 some odd miles that we have hiked through the city of Athens, going door to door and knocking on doors. I'm new to Athens politics. I'm going to be straight up with that, but I'm not new to politics in general. I have been serving on faculty senate at OU for 4 years. I have been the chair and a member of the professional relations committee, which is one of the standing committees for faculty senate at OU. I'm the chair of the Council on Research, Scholarship, and Creative Activity at OU. So I've been involved with the research side, I've been involved in academia, but I've also been involved in the legislation within the city, or within the university, the largest employer in the city of Athens. Given that, one of the big things that's on my agenda, one of the things that concerns me is being on faculty senate, being involved in a number of different enterprises within OU, but also being a hop grower. I grow hops for Jackie O's. I grow peppers for Kaiser Barbecue Shack. My wife and I are heavily involved in the city from a very grassroots kind of perspective. I worked the door at Tony's for 5 years while I was a professor teaching psychology. I listened to what people had to say. I listened to what people wanted. And one of the big things that I keep hearing over and over again is, why doesn't this large employer and the city work together to get things resolved and solved? That's one of the big issues, one of the big things that I would like to be involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And so next would be Nate Hall.
Folks, my name is Nate Hall. And I think Steve's last point is a very good one. Recently, there's been some tensions between students and long-term residents in our community. And one of the main reasons I'm running is because I think I can bridge that gap. I have been around. My service to the party is pretty evident. I was there at 5 in the morning, the day we kicked off the final push to put Barack Obama in the White House. I was there the last time we beat Randy Morris. in when we overcame kind of a bogus scandal to keep Chris Fall on her seat. And I led the charge this year as president of College Democrats to keep John Kasich out of office. Unfortunately, that one didn't go our way. But I'm also leading the fight against Senate Bill 5. We actually have a rally coming up this Sunday at Scripps Amphitheater at 12:30. This is a good chance for the people to have our voices heard, finally, instead of being ignored by Columbus. And the people have a chance to veto as well. I've also served on OU Student Senate for the last year, and there my project has been fostering better relations between students and permanent residents between the university and the city. One big thing that I've been working on is I've led a discussion on having the university help pay for the fire. With 85% of the buildings that this fire truck would be needed for being Ohio University buildings, I don't think asking the university to pay less than a quarter of that is asking for very much. Again, I'm running because I think there's that gap. I think that I have the energy, the dedication, and the experience to bridge that gap and make sure our future is right there. Thanks.
Thank you. Maxine?
Hello, my name is Maxine Rantain, and I would like to thank all the women voters, my family, friends, and supporters for all your encouragement. And I have been a resident of Athens for 30 years. I'm the owner of Second Half Shop for 30 years. I have been the treasurer for the Enterprise Development Corporation that does small business loans in 30 counties in Ohio, including Athens County. And I've been on that board for 18 years. I was on the board of Athens Tourism Bureau, which is the County Convention and Visitors Bureau, for 12 years. And I was the president of that board for 2 years. I'm on Christine, the Transportation Committee and the subcommittee for pedestrian and bicycle safety. And I have also been on bike path committee meetings. I'm on the county board for the bike path committee. And I am the mother of 2 children that went through the Athens School District. They are now grown and have left, but we started at West and went all the way through Athens High School. I know that with my background in finance and with the current situation that is having such a profound impact on the city, that I can be an asset to the city and to the to council, and to help maintaining the city be, fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Next, Elabu.
Good evening. Just to ask, is this microphone needed or is everybody here? Okay. I'm not going to stand. I hardly ever write comments out, but I wrote it out tonight. I was born in Athens. I was raised here. This is my home. And it's a wonderful community. That's why we're all here in one way or another. My day job, I'm a researcher at the university, so I'm sort of a scientist, which when you mix science and politics, you get some interesting things. There are some drawbacks in that I really get caught up in detail, I think, sometimes. Try to move away from that in some ways. But the benefit is that I really think things through. I tend to have an open mind about issues and look at them from various different perspectives to try to find the best solution. I think that I've brought some innovative ideas to council and to the city of Athens, and that I've been a pretty hard worker. Some of the things many of these things were done not necessarily by me, some of them were, but by the city as a whole, which I think has been moving in the right direction for the past 4 years. We've accomplished a lot. There was a big change in 2008, the election of 2007, because many residents, the majority, wanted the city to go in the new direction, and we've done that. Some of the things that we've done, the Richmond Roundabout has been completed. I think that was a great project. We stopped using coal ash on the streets, which was somewhat dirty and something that residents complained about. So we've been responsive to that. A bike and pedestrian plan, Member Nisley was a big part of making sure we put together was passed. We stood up for fairness and equality in the community. We've showed strong support for workers' rights and collective bargaining in opposition to SB 5. A lot of the things that I've worked on have been environmental issues because I chair the Environment Committee. So we flipped the switch on the state's largest solar array, largest municipal solar array at the community center last year, and we're pursuing energy efficiency to save money and fulfill our moral responsibility to care for our environment. And so I would just ask to consider all the candidates up here and look at my record on council and vote based on that.
Thank you. Christine?
Thanks to all of you for being here tonight. And it's good to see people actively participating. I think that's at the core of the League of Women Voters mission. And I'd say it's also part of what makes a community thrive. And I think that's also at the core of what being a council member is about, participation in the city process. Council members have a responsibility to the citizens of Athens for their safety. We need to provide for adequate infrastructure like our roads, our water supply, and we have a financial responsibility to work within a balanced budget to provide for financial security of our community. But equally important are the issues that affect the quality of life. As I was walking around the neighborhoods, I do a lot of walking in my own neighborhood in uptown, but with going door to door and I'm talking to people, and their concerns were about noise, they were about trash, and they were also about our budget and carefully taking care of that. And also, I think a desire for more respect amongst our citizens and our community. City Council has a responsibility to provide for the community, and I have worked in this community City Council. As I mentioned, I serve as chair of the Transportation Committee, and we move forward with legislation that improves our streets and our bridges. With the help of many volunteers, including Maxine, we were able to complete a pedestrian and bicycle plan, which was something that was recommended in our Athens City Comprehensive Plan. I also drafted a legislation to add graffiti definitions within our code. I served on the Southside Community Association, participated in the Athens City Comprehensive Plan, as many of you here also did, and was later asked to serve on the working groups for the Athens Land Use Plan. Why I decided to seek re-election is that I believe I can offer the leadership skills for the benefit of our community to improve our quality of life. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Christine. Abraham?
Hi, like Oahu, myself, I was born and raised in Athens. I'm a lifelong resident of the county, 7-year resident of the city. Since I'm an Athens High School graduate, and now I attend at Ohio University, where I'm a history major. I've been working since I was 16. I've had all my jobs in the city. Some have been non-family, and some have been local family. And right now I'm working for the Millers, which is a great family to work for. I plan on staying after I get my degree in Athens. It's been my home. I plan on staying here afterwards, keeping my home. And I figure the best way to help out my city is to be a public servant in my city. I'm open to constructive criticism. I'm even going to be up for critique tonight. I'm a representative of you guys, and I need to serve you guys. And to do so, you guys have to give me intel on what you guys think needs done. And I put my phone number up on my email, my phone number up on my website. 84athens.org. I put my email, call me. We can sit down, talk outside of that. Some of the main reasons why I'm running, also to be, in addition to being a public servant, things that I see that need fixed: city infrastructure. Our streets are deteriorating, our sidewalks are deteriorating. The sewer and water lines we need to continue to upgrade those. I mean, we're still using the same clay lines that were put in after World War II. And I hope I can be an asset to the city.
Thank you. Now we're ready for a round of questions from the news media, and the order, we had a random drawing earlier, And we'll have one round from the media and then go to audience questions. And first will be David DeWitt of the Athens News. Secondly, Wesley Lowry of the Post. Thirdly, Sarah Brumfield of the Messenger. And Fred Kite of WOUB. Be one question to each of you in that order. David, right? Oh, and first, you'll answer this question in the same order in which you just spoke. So go right ahead, David.
Thank you, Ellsworth. First, I want to know what's wrong with this row. Nobody. I understand. It's cooler to sit in the back of class, right? No, that's not my question. That's not. I only got one. I'm not going to waste it on that. I'm going to jump right into it. Actually, the governor's state budget proposal cuts the local government fund in half. For Athens, that means out of 800,000, 400,000 is gone. That comes out of the general fund. Which is about 10 to 11 million, I believe, which pays 80% for personnel. So, as our mayor likes to often say, so when you're looking at budgets, it's all about where you put your values. And my question is, where do you put your values when it comes to facing these budget cuts?
That's an enormous issue, and I realize that. You're talking $400,000. At this point in my career, I'm not in a position right now and have enough information to know exactly where cuts need to be made and where we can take away, where we need to reallocate, where we need to do some shuffling of funds within the city. But I think that's something that we need to have the citizens of Athens also chime in on. In going door to door, that's something I have been asking when people, and I do get my foot in the door and start dialogue going on between the people in the city to see, where could we tighten up? Where can we not tighten up? So it's going to be an ongoing struggle, and it's not something that's going to be easy to handle. And that I understand, but it's going to take a little bit of planning, a lot of planning, not a little bit of planning, to figure out how we go about resolving that issue.
Thank you, Steve. And these are 1.5 minute answers, and so we'll go right ahead. Next, Nate.
I think the mayor's absolutely right. Budgets aren't just about numbers, they're about values. And I want to make this absolutely clear. If I'm elected, I will vote against anything taking advantage of our workers using unfair legislation such as Senate Bill 5. That being said, we're losing money, and we're going to have to find ways to make up for that. And one thing I'd like to see done is have more input from you folks, such as was done with the comprehensive plan and other things. One thing that we're going to have to do, if we have less money, is we're going to have to be more reliant on volunteers. Things like Athens Beautification Day is coming up. Things like neighborhood watch programs to have extra sets of eyes and ears for our law enforcement officers. And I think, if we work together on those things and build volunteer bases, we can maintain the level of services without having to make drastic cuts.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. So far, this is a very difficult situation, and I've worked a lot with budgets and finance, and I would have to see who's got what roles, as both of my colleagues have said. The one thing that would absolutely stay would be the safety and service of the city has got to be in place. I mean, there's no way we can cut anything out of police or fire. There's a way to balance, as Nate said, with volunteers on certain programs. There are alternative ways of shorter weeks working or something like that where we may not have to lose employees, but we could just shift around scheduling. And again, as they've said, it is the input of this residents, but I think there's a lot of work that everybody's got, going to have to be doing even if Senate Bill 5 is overturned, we're still in a budget crunch. And there's still a lot that needs to be focused on. There are still grants out there, and I know a lot of the services are covered in a large part with grants. And the ability to write grants and keep them coming in for basic services is a good plus thing for the city.
Thank you. Christine? Oh, pardon me, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That's the first thing I'm about.
We know our order.
Yes, we do.
I do have a couple things to say on this. First, I'd like to talk about the values of the people that are putting us in this position. It's not just the economy, it's not primarily the economy, it's the values of the quote-unquote leadership in Columbus right now who are pushing this on the local governments, shirking their responsibility to do what they've done year after year, decade after decade, and that's provide resources to local governments for the protection and safety of our community. This started in 2005 with Governor Taft and the Republican legislature proposing tax cuts largely to businesses and wealthier folks that now total about $2 billion a year. And we're now seeing that being pushed down to us, and this is the result. In terms of the city budget, there are no easy answers. 80%, as Dave says, is personnel costs in our general fund. And half of that is, at least half of that is fire and police. And I don't see any way we can make up for $400,000 or $500,000 without cutting those two departments, as sad as that is to say. Saying that, it will be, I think, the top priority of myself and probably most of the council to maintain our fire protection and our police protection in the city.
Thank you. Christine?
It is a challenging time economically, and I attended part of the county presentation on what the effect of the local funds would be, and then also have talked briefly with the city auditor of Athens, and we are blessed to have someone there in that position who served 8 years. I will do this merrily. Our city auditor served on city council before becoming the auditor, and also, as I understand, our budgeting process is taking a very conservative approach for our budget. The county projections would be that we would have $535,000 in local funds income this year. Our current budget, as established by the auditor's office, has us at $505,000. It doesn't mean that there won't be additional cuts in year 2 that we will have to deal with, but I think we are being very careful. At the moment, there's also a soft hiring freeze, and so that, in a way, makes us take a very cautious approach on filling vacant positions and maybe thinking about other alternatives. Can a full-time position become a half-time position for the job share? Once again, ideas from the public would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Abraham?
Thank you. Well, let's just get to it. The governor's budget is going to hurt us a lot. Not only in addition to the cutting local government's funding, he's also getting rid of the estate tax. According to last year's 2009 year-to-date revenue, just above $238,000 came from that. That we're taking over $250,000 from the budget when he gets rid of that. I guess we're going to have to be realistic here, and we're going to have to figure out some way not to cut essential city services. But the problem is, close to 80% of the budget is workers. What are we going to do? And I think that we have 3 options. We can either cut jobs or pay, which we don't want to do during an economic recession. We can cut non-essential city services, or we can raise taxes. And it's really going to have to be what the citizens of Athens want. Do we want to? We have to hear input, and that's what we're going to have to hear input from the citizens of Athens what they need to do. Also, as an elected official, we need to lead by example. So this isn't a career job. I say we cut all elected officials' pay by 30%. We're saving, that would save roughly 85 to 95,000 a year. Let's just do it. We're not career politicians. We're here to serve our city and not make money off our city. So, thank you.
Thank you. And let me just note that we've had 12 straight within the allotted time. I thank you for your good citizenship, one and all. We're ready to go to the second question, but let's just review the order because this is drawn at random. I hope you can see. So Abraham, you will answer this one first. The number 6 on here, Steve, Elahu, Nate, Christine, and Maxine. Does my little question 2 make sense? Good. And with that, then, we will turn for the second question to Wesley Lowry of the OU Post.
Yes. In many of your opening statements, you discussed your various levels of involvement with Ohio University. And many of the issues that have come up in this discussion have come down to town-gown relations. And it's no secret to any of us that the city and whether it be the student body or Ohio University have come to, I wouldn't say come to blows, but they've been in disagreement on a number of issues this year and continuing issues. Some of those that come to mind are the noise ordinance, the fire truck, what's going to be going on in a few weekends with the Spring Fest. For those of you currently on council, how would you describe the current town-gown relations, and is there room for improvement? Are we happy with where we are? For those of you hoping to join the other colleagues on council, how might you address some of these issues?
Abraham?
All right. Town-gown relations. I've lived here, my whole life and watched it from the couches, student couching and whatnot, students overturning that. I really think it's a never-ending cycle. It's something that we're going to have to make relations better, but I think there always is going to be a conflict between students and locals, and we're going to have to bridge that gap and make it, not as big as a problem. With the noise ordinance, in respects to that, I think what the city has on the books is not as, there could be something better, and what the student senate has proposed is not good either. I think there needs to be a compromise in the middle. I think that it should not be in cops' discretion to shut down for noise. But that said, also at the same time, if your neighbor, whether it be a college student or a local, calls the authorities with you for being too loud, you only need one warning and then it's shut down. Let's just shut it down. And then I would also, I'd stay with the fines, but we can't be sending kids to jail for noise. That's a little ridiculous. So.
Thank you. Steve, you're next on this one.
Wesley, would you mind repeating the question?
Yes. Essentially, the Cliff Notes was, how would you describe the current state of town-gown relations, and what would you do if you don't describe it as being, rainbows and butterflies? What would you do to improve it on issues like the who's paying for the fire truck, the noise ordinance, how the city and the school handles the spring festivals every year, those types of issues?
Okay. In terms of the relationship as I see it, I'm a professor. I'm in the classroom. I'm talking to the students. One of the things that I'm kind of tired of hearing is it's the us against the evil horde. If you think about it, I'm a behavioral scientist and a researcher, and it's behavior change on all parts, to include OU. I think there's behaviors that need to change in terms of on having better relationships, stronger relationships, getting involved, and solving a lot of problems. The fire truck. I get the fire truck. I have sat there and spoken to classes and said, would you guys be willing, you as a collective body, be willing to have a plaque on the side and say, this fire truck partially donated by the students at Ohio University, to come up. But I think OU should come up with money as well. I saw the resolution, and I agree with the resolution, stating that OU should be paying for $50,000 a year to go towards the fire truck. I think that's low. I think that's low when you sit there and think about the tax revenues that aren't coming in from the university, and the fact that over 85%, I'm going to say, I project in the next 5 years, it's going to be more like 95% of the buildings that are taller than 3 stories are going to be on OU's property, and therefore for the OU to come in with monies, I think that's appropriate. In terms, real quick, because I have 15 seconds, to talk about the noise ordinance and where I stand on that, I disagree with the referendum for the noise ordinance, and here's why. I think that there's bigger issues that I think it's a legitimate issue, and I'll get to that later.
Okay, and the order for these now will be Elahu, Nate, Christine, Maxine. Elahu, you're next.
Thank you. A minute and a half is not much time to discuss this issue, but I will try. I'm a graduate of Ohio University. My undergraduate was here. I'm a graduate student there currently in a PhD program, and I work at the university. So, and I'm not the only one that has that type of relationship with the university who lives here in Athens. So it's really a town and gown. We would not have one without the other. We hear town versus gown a lot, but I would hesitate to use that terminology. There has been a lot of tension on certain issues, but there are some positive signs as well. Beautification Day, Nate mentioned earlier, is a great event where students give back to the community. The fire truck is an issue where we've been in communication with the university for quite a long time informally on this. When we finally asked in a formal manner, and perhaps we could have done it a little bit more tactfully, but it needed to be done, and we're still awaiting a response on that. So where we are, I mean, we're in regular communication with the university at different levels. I've worked with Tracy Kelly, who's Graduate Student Senate President, on some equality issues, so working with them to improve the community as well. And some of the other issues, noise, the initiative that's being proposed would really drive a wedge between the community that would probably last for years. And so I think finding some common ground there that still allows the police department to have effective enforcement will be important.
Thank you. Nate, you're next.
All right, let's just go point by point here. In terms of the fire truck, I've already stated I've led the discussion in Student Senate about the university paying for a portion of that truck. I don't think less than a quarter of that truck for the number of OU buildings that are taller than 3 stories is a lot to ask. In terms of 8Fest, I'll go back to Student Senate again. I co-sponsored a resolution which passed unanimously to encourage the people who put on 8Fest to move it outside of the city. There were a lot of safety issues in terms of having that at fairgrounds. Our safety services were already going to be stretched to the brink that weekend, and there were a lot of safety issues involved with that. The noise referendum, when Student Senate first brought that up, I gave my 2 cents, and I warned that this would be a divisive issue, that this would be something that could definitely damage relations. I think the problem here, the root of the problem, is a lack of contact between students and permanent residents. I live in a great neighborhood, a mixed neighborhood, the North End of Grosvenor, and I think the more contact that students and permanent residents have with each other, whether it be through volunteerism, et cetera, living close to each other, the more contact we have, the better we can understand each other and have better relations.
Thank you. Abraham? Pardon me? I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize. That's 2 flood-ups for your moderator. Sorry about that. Goodness sakes, this is terrible. I'm just looking ahead.
Thanks for the question on town-gown relations and current status of it. Can it be improved? Always. I mean, this is a subject in last April's town hall meeting where people were talking about the noise issue then. And a lot of citizens, both student-aged and older, people who had been students who are now retired, and just talking about this is an ongoing issue. And I do a little play on words. You know how they say in real estate, it's location, location, location. For town and gown, I think it's relations, 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 and anything we can do to improve that. Do I see some signs of that happening? Yes, I see the Coalition on Alcohol, on Responsible Drug and Alcohol Consumption. That's a community and student-based committee that's working together, and those people meet every month and have subcommittees that meet quarterly. We have Project Clean that many of you are involved with here that has some students involved in off-campus housing. We have an initiative for a front porch forum that will initiate electronic communications on a neighborhood level, and we're going to try that. In terms of the noise ordinance, I'll be very brief on that. I'd like to thank Captain Pyle for an excellent report in which he shared with us that 94% of the responses to noise complaints are initiated by citizens. That is not the police. And I also want to acknowledge his work on trying to reach a compromise solution. So that's about relations, and that's proof that it is happening.
Thank you. Maxine?
This is what happens when you get to go last. The biggest thing that I know is that even when I was a student at Maryland, when I was in my 20s, I was right outside of a town. It was very similar to Athens. And a lot of times the students, not at Athens, not in Maryland, everywhere, don't really realize that they're in a city. They believe that this is part of an extension of the campus. I think that the citizens and the students, and we've started doing it with some of these projects, need to be a little more interactive. I don't blame the students with this whole, the diversiveness. I live in a very mixed neighborhood. We have a lot of students in our neighborhood, and we get along really well. We have block parties that are not fests, but are block parties and communities, and they are completely mixed, and we have a wonderful time with their music, with our music, with dancing and everything. As far as the noise ordinance, I agree. I think Captain Pyle has done an excellent job with showing in data that this is working. It is not the police that are just going out and, making issuing citations. A lot of it is even student complaints first. I think that there can be some compromise, but I think it's up to Captain Pyle. The fire truck, it's in the best interest and the moral interest of the university to protect its own students. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just review the order of response to the next question, which will be question number 3. Steve, Christine, Elaho, Nate, Abraham, Maxine. That's for my benefit. That's why we're reviewing it. And for the third question, we will turn to Sarah Brumfield of the Athens Messenger.
My question is, if you could solve one problem in the city, what would it be, and do you have any possible solutions?
Well, there's a lot of things that could be solved. But I think the one thing, again, that I would like to reiterate that I feel that needs to be solved is a stronger partnership between the largest employer in the city and the city in and of itself. Do I think I could bridge that? I absolutely do. Being on faculty senate, I meet with a lot of the administrators. Being a professor, I meet with a lot of the students. Being a person who's a local entrepreneur in terms of growing or sustainable organic vegetables and hops in the city, I see a lot of the business owners. Not to exclude the business owners, but a lot of the small businesses need to be brought into the fold and help with the problem solving as well. I believe that I do have the skills and the communication skills to negotiate. I kind of pride myself on being a connector, to where I like bringing people together to solve and resolve problems. Again, I am also listen, which is, I think, a big asset for anybody in this position, is to be able to sit there and listen to people. That's our job. Our job is to sit and listen to the concerns and try to work towards some resolution collectively.
Thank you. Christine?
I think I'm back to responding to comments that I heard at the West Side Candidates Forum, and then also the comments that I've heard from citizens as I've walked door to door. And I think if there was one thing that we could improve on and move forward on, even being more proactive, would be improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And so that encompasses, how can we be proactive in ways that deal with the trash, with the litter? Also, how can we be more proactive in terms of our planning? Do we want to consider something like neighborhood-based planning, which, as I've discussed briefly with the city planner, is a possibility? Do we want to consider owner-occupied overlays? That's something that's mentioned in the Athens City Comprehensive Plan. Would that be trickier? It might be. But there are cities such as East Lansing, Michigan, where that kind of overlay district is working and functioning. So I would think, can we also incorporate into that working on the quality of life, be more proactive about a stronger relationship between the university and the community, and seeing ways where we might partner together for options for first-time homeowners and getting the university to help with that. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And the order will be Alahu, Abraham, Maxine, and Milahu.
Thank you. You didn't skip me this time.
That's right. That's why I broke into it.
So there could be a general answer or a very specific one. I will give a very specific one, probably with more details than anyone cares to hear tonight. But it's something that has been bothering me and many other residents for a long time, and that's our inability to finally solve the litter problem in town. And several people in this room have been a part of efforts trying to do that over the years. And we've seen improvements. We've certainly made headway, I think, in certain aspects of that. There's a proposal that I put together probably about a year and a half ago. It was never made public, but we discussed it in some meetings. But I feel that it would actually solve the problem. That's having 2 litter control officers instead of 1. And changing the way that they enforce it. The litter control officer we had previously did an amazing job. He really reached out to students and tried to build a relationship. I've got 30 seconds. So he did a great job, but did not solve the problem. If we have 2, the first one goes by very efficiently, leaves a warning, says you have 24 hours to clean this up. If you don't do it, we'll be back. And then the next day, 24 hours later, like clockwork, we send someone else who either leaves a thank you note, hopefully, if they've cleaned it up, and says thanks for being a member of the community that's responsible, or cleans up the litter and leaves a fine, leaves a ticket on the door. I think if that could be worked out within the city's litter cleanup, that could probably go a long way towards solving that. Thanks.
Thank you. Nate?
Well, if I have to pick one issue, I have to pick town-gown relations, and I think the solution for that is contact. If we fix town-gown relations, we fix the issue on the fire truck, we fix the noise issue, we fix the pest issue, we fix the litter issue, we fix the issue of delinquent landlords who let their houses fall apart and let the people who live next to them, who do own the homes they live in, let their property values fall because of the delinquent landlords around. Contact is pretty simple. A lot of the folks that are here in this room are here because they care about the community. And this isn't the only thing they do. They do plenty of other volunteer stuff outside of that. And I would encourage you, if there are students at the at events like that, to reach out to them. I know some of the best interactions I've had have been at places like UCM, when it's students and non-students mixing together and exchanging ideas. If you live in a mixed neighborhood like I do, treat every fall like you're getting a new neighbor. Where I grew up, if there's somebody new moved in, everybody was on their doorstep with cake. If you did that, you'd end up baking a lot of cakes, but you get the idea. If you know your neighbors and have a personal relationship with them, it's a lot easier to say, hey guys, can you just turn the stereo down a little bit?
Thank you.
Well, I would have to say the biggest thing is infrastructure. If you just take a look down Richland Avenue right now, there's cones right in the middle of the street, potholes that would probably break your axle in your car. I ride from work every day, ride from work or class every day, and I take Mill Street or West Union, and both of these roads are pothole riddled. And in addition to that, the sidewalks are falling apart. Other than I saw a new section got put in the other day. But other than that, I mean, the sidewalks are horrible. And we need to increase parking. Parking is always a problem with students in town. And I think a way that we could possibly do this, I'd like community input, but I think a way that I think that we could do it is maybe a new parking garage. We have an armory that is left vacant. Let's tear it down and put a parking garage in there. Also, the water and sewer lines. I mean, we've got the same water and sewer lines that are made of clay since right after World War II. They're caving in, and we see this, I mean, a couple times a year, like a backhoe digging them up. So let's just do a complete re-overhaul on them. And then when I say streets, not just hot asphalt patching, cool asphalt patching, we need a complete overhaul. This is only a seasonal fix to the problem, and if we're planning on fixing this, we need a complete overhaul of all major means of roads of transportation. So.
Thank you. Maxine?
I think with funding cuts and everything else, and as I've gone through the neighborhoods, I know that there are issues with personal safety. I don't know that crime is up, but it feels like it is. There have been assaults and things that have been happening a little bit closer in town. And I think that at one point we had a neighborhood watch association, and I think that that would be a very doable solution. I know that some people have asked for extra cameras, but I think that would be an overload on the police department, and I think the city would have a hard time, handling the man hours for that. But if people and individuals wanted to, you can always put up a security camera on your own property. But I think that if there were neighborhood watches and they were, regulated, that it would help a lot with just the safety and security feeling of the city.
Thank you. Let's go over the order of response for the next question. Elahu, Christine, Nate, Maxine, and Steve. And for that question, we will turn to Fred Kite of WOUB. Fred?
Before I ask my question, I'd like to apologize to the league and to the candidates and to the audience for coming in late. I received an email at approximately 5 o'clock saying the time had been changed to 6:30 or quarter till 7, so I came late and I apologize for that. My question is, what qualities or skills do you possess as a candidate that would make you one of the best candidates in the field?
Okay, and that will be Elahu.
All right. Kent Butler said this the other night at his forum. It's difficult sometimes to speak positively about yourself and sort of brag a little bit about what type of person you are. But I will try. I think in terms of the qualities that I possess that make me a good member of council is that I'm accessible and open to new ideas, open to different perspectives than my own. I'm responsive to people that have an issue with the city or that contact me if they have a complaint or if there's anything specific. Sometimes it's a very specific thing that I shoot them to the mayor's office in one form or another, of course. But what sets me apart from some of the people up here, and I think that we're all good candidates, and the city is very lucky to have so many good people running, is that I do have a record of success. I've come on council and been able to achieve some very big things. Other things have not turned out the way I would hope. Like the Athens Energy Initiative was something that I put a huge amount of effort into, and that was blocked by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So we were unable to move forward with that. Federal regulators got in the way, but we're looking for alternatives.
Thank you.
That's good enough. Thanks.
Christine?
Thanks for the question, my qualities. I think that I have, not only when I've been walking door to door, but in other times, listened to people. And so I think that's one quality that I have. Somebody, when they were first talking to me about my deciding to run for a re-election, and they were trying to think of an adjective to describe me, and they say balance. And I would like to think that I don't always agree with everyone. I mean, a lot of them I know we don't always agree with each other, and the mayor knows we don't always agree with each other, and other council members. But I will listen and try and make educated decisions. I persist with things. I can tell you that before serving on the council during the 3 years, as I described earlier in my opening statement, that I have been actively involved with the community, serving with different nonprofit organizations pretty much since I moved into Athens. And that in addition to that, my professional experience, I bring 30 years worth of working with nonprofit organizations in the arts and the humanities, and then also work with grants management and budget with the university. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Nate?
Thank you. You know, I think the first time that our county chair, Bill Bias, found out that we had 6 people running, I think he hit the nail on the head when he said that if we can't find any Republicans to run against us, we'll run against ourselves. What I think makes me different is, it's something that I heard at the first board candidate forum last week, was that the progress that this person had hoped for had not materialized. Well, progress does not just materialize. Progress is the product of hard work, day after day, nose to the grindstone hard work, and sometimes it's not fun. But I think I've demonstrated my ability and willingness to put my nose to the grindstone and do the hard work that we need to do in order to keep our city's future bright. And I think that can translate into a high level of contact between your elected officials, like I hope to be, and you. If I'm elected, I'll be out knocking on your door, not just on election time, but I'll be out actively seeking your input on issues that are, present issues in the city.
Thank you, Nate.
Who's next?
Maxine?
It is really difficult to have I know that I've got a really good background in managerial skills and in bookkeeping skills and in the finances that are coming up and all the hard times that are in front of us with money. I think that it will be very, it would be nice to have a different look on it. I know that I can work with the auditor and I also feel like I'm a people person, and I listen to people, and I do take input, and I take criticism, and I can look at opposite views, and I want to know what somebody else's differing opinion is. I'm also very open. I'm at the bicycle shop all the time. I have, my cell phone's on my website, and my email is out there for anybody to get in touch with me at any time. And it goes to Abraham.
I think my biggest, asset would be communication, listening. I like Maxine. I have my phone number out there on my website and my email. I'm willing to sit down and meet with people, whether it be at their home or at a local coffee shop or something. We'll sit down and talk. I think I also can bring leadership to the table. I'm president of an organization on campus, Young Americans for Liberty, there where we practice. I'm president of that organization. Also, I've been a hard worker. I've been working since I was 16. I've never not had a job. And I think that I can be very persistent. And if the citizens of Athens want something, I will fight for them. And if they can get a hold of me, which I put my cell phone number or my email, I'm ready to fight for them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mike goes down to Steve.
About myself. The Well, let me start with just saying I'm proud just sitting up at this table with a lot of very stellar individuals, to include myself. But if I were to categorize myself in terms of strengths, number one, I'm a researcher and I've been writing grants for a long time. And so for me, I like investigating, I like digging in, I like trying to find different resources, different avenues for looking at funding for my research, but that experience translates over, I think, into the city as well. Another thing for me is that I am a listener. I'm a psychologist by training. We are trained to listen. And it's not superficial listening, it's listening and engaging and getting input back and communicating back and forth with an individual. Third, like Member Nisley was saying, I'm also a service person. I served 23 years in the U.S. military. I was teaching in the classroom over in Porter Hall on 9/11, teaching students when I got the phone call, actually the knock on the door saying, the District of Columbia Air National Guard is putting you back on active duty service because you need to go and protect the country. At which time during 9/11 I went back, was brought back on active duty and served. And I served during a very, very, as you guys all are well aware, chaotic, crazy time. Having to manage 465 troops under my command, that's no easy feat when you're sitting there in Washington, D.C., the Pentagon's in flames, and you're having to sit there and control and keep things safe and sound.
Thank you. So we're ready to go on to our first question from the audience, and they've been fluttering in and been reviewed to see whether they repeat or whether they can be addressed by all candidates. And so here they are in the order in which they've come to me, but let's review question 5. Elahu, Nate, Steve, Abraham, Maxine, Christine. It looks like my little scheme of communicating with you works, for which I'm pleased. Because if it didn't, well, okay. So with that, Elahu, we won't pass you up this time. And Oxford, Ohio has been cited as a town that keeps its streets clean. Oxford has privatized some code office responsibilities. What is your opinion about privatizing some code office functions?
I guess I got the luck of the draw twice in a row here, but I'm happy to take this question. In general, I do not like the idea of privatization of government functions. I think there are some things the government does very well, and things that are governmental responsibility because it's a shared community role, or a shared community job that needs to be done. We have a unionized code office, and I would very much hesitate to get rid of union jobs to get rid of union jobs in a privatization effort. I do think that we could do some things better in the code office. It seems to me that we've seen some improvements. Their primary job is ensuring the safety of rental properties in Athens. They do, I think, very well. They've increased the amount of time that they're inspecting rental properties from every 2 years to every 1 year. And I think that has some benefits to the quality of housing in town and the safety of renters. So in terms of privatization, no, I don't think that's a solution. I think there are things the code office could do better. Litter is, of course, one of those, and we're addressing it in a somewhat different way in the city by having a litter control officer who's not a code officer. They're not part of the code office, and so they have a somewhat different, or at least they're not part of the code office union. They're not code officers. It's a litter control officer. So I don't think that would be a solution here for that.
Okay, Nate, you're next.
Well, I said it before, I'll say it again. I do not think that our community should be taking advantage of unfair legislation such as Senate Bill 5 coming out of Columbus to get rid of good-paying union jobs that do a great job. I think with a new code officer on the job, this is going to get better. A new litter officer, excuse me. And Elijah's absolutely right. This is a government responsibility to keep our streets clean. But government can't do it alone. We need to get more active in our community and take personal responsibility. which is why I think volunteerism has to be a solution, especially in these tough budget times. Again, all of you are here because you care about this community. And I think that all of you care enough to, maybe every other week or something, get together with your neighbors, students, permanent residents, everybody in between, and just go clean up your street. It's not hard.
Thank you. Steve?
I'm in agreement with some of my colleagues up here in terms of, I don't think that the code enforcement office should be privatized. I also feel that there are areas for improvement. I am in agreement with Nate on the fact that I think that us as citizens need to be more involved. Operation Clean Sweep to me is genius. I think it should be something that occurs quarterly. In my trails and walking around through the city neighborhoods, I have been documenting houses that I think need a little bit of help as I'm going through and looking at them. Another thing, I've spoken to a friend of mine who owns a small business uptown, Yanni, who is constantly bothered or worrying about streetlights behind his store to where there's either graffiti being written on those walls. But one thing that's more troublesome for him that in his discussions with me happens to be he fears that someone could be sexually abused or sexually assaulted or raped back there is a big concern of his. So it's things like that going through, and again, that's things that us as citizens can do, but I think that's something that needs improvement, is identifying safety issues throughout the city and reporting them. But that's our jobs as citizens, isn't it?
Thank you. Mike goes down to Abraham.
I think the biggest thing would be volunteerism, and we need to be all together as one, as Athenians, taking care of our city. And if we can't do it as one, then I think with the code office, I think we keep it the way it is. It definitely needs improvement, but keep it public sector. But for litter control, I would be fine with privatizing litter control. I would think that the competition would make better if we have a active company that's going in and citing for litter. People are going to pay and not want to pay more, so they'll clean up their yards, and not so much the students, but the landlords will be the ones catching this rift, and they'll be responsible for their students, so they'll be getting on their renters, and I think we can see the city clean that way. But definitely volunteers would be the best way to do it. But if we can't do it as volunteers, then we have to go elsewhere.
Thank you. Maxine.
I think there are a couple of issues that there are some problems with code, and I think that they have to be somehow a little more consistent with how they are overseeing the buildings in Athens. I know that when the group of us were on the tour on Saturday morning, that we noted that there are a lot of places where there are just plastic bags, and in the code it says they have to be covered trash cans. And not only that, they cannot be visible in the front of the building. I think if these kind of things were attended to a little more clearly, I don't know whether that's now litter control's problem or that's back to code, but I think those things need to be addressed. And then again, as most have said here, I think that and with the neighborhood watch and just people going around, I know that when I walk through my neighborhood, I take a trash bag with me and I clean up, because I know a lot of it's not really individuals' faults. A lot of times trash cans on trash day get dumped over. There are lots of dogs and cats out in the neighborhoods, and I know that stuff ends up on the street and on the sidewalks, and I do pick up a lot of it. I think it would help if more people did that, but I don't think that really look to privatizing either litter or code.
Thank you. Down to Christine.
Sorry.
As an interesting question about whether to privatize code or not, there's several things that I would think we would need to do. One, to gather more information. Oxford, Ohio is a similar town to ours in that it has a large university in a small town, but its governing structure is also different. The city of Athens is statutory, the city of Oxford is charter, and so the management of the city is handled in a different way. I did visit when I was, shortly after I came on council, I went over to visit Oxford because I happened to know somebody who served on the city council there and toured their streets. And it is indeed, some of the streets are impressive, but they also have some problems, and they have problems with planning and development and code enforcement as well. Could we privatize? Could that possibly be part of a building department? That was one of the recommendations in the city comprehensive plan. I'm not sure if it could be incorporated into that, but certainly a matter worth investigating. I wouldn't want to privatize at the expense of losing any of our current city employees, but once again, that might be another way of investigating this. Do we need to move towards more uniform code enforcement, as some of the people have talked about with the housing conditions in the neighborhoods, with the litter and the trash? Yes, we do need to move towards that, and that's being part of being proactive. So I don't know that I have a firm answer for you on privatizing, but certainly something worth further investigation.
Thank you, Christine. For our next question, why you probably know the order, would be Nate, Maxine, Christine. I think you got it right on down the line. And so for the sixth question of the evening, Nate, you'll be the first one on this. What have you done, what would you like to do regarding environmental issues, moving Athens in a more sustainable, green, energy-efficient direction?
I'm happy you asked this because this is all my literature. One thing that I'd like to do is we have two very great, very successful local businesses in Third Sun and Dovetail in that green energy sector. And one thing I think that the city can do, the city has done a good job in terms of greening our fleet, in terms of making sure our buildings are energy efficient. But one thing we can do is to encourage the implementation of these technologies in people's homes and businesses. And that could be done possibly through a property tax credit, possibly through a revolving loan fund that will help fund the capital to encourage people to do more of these things in their homes and businesses. Another big thing is visibility, and I think we've done a pretty good job on that, but we can always do better. I like the direction the city's going on this issue, and I think we've been doing a good job so far, but there's more we can do. Thanks.
Thank you. Maxine?
I think that the city is going in the right direction with a lot of the things that a lot of things put into place in the city. And I really appreciate it. I think it would be nice to have some more of the industry coming in to fill some of the vacant places that are, I don't know exactly what's going in TS Trim's building, but why that's vacant and why we can't put some of these industries closer in, and why they're going out, not anything against the county, but why they had to go to Poston Road. It would have been nicer to bring it in and bring in more industry here. And I know it's sort of an environmental issue, but I don't know what we can do about all the cats and dogs in this. They're getting to be a problem. And as I said in the other one, they're knocking over trash cans, they're getting into things. And because we're doing so many other things with wildlife protection and with solar energy and trying to look at, basic environmental improvements, I think they're great. I think we can look at some other smaller ones like animal husbandry too. And now it's going
To Christine. Thank you, Maxine.
And the question was more environmental initiatives. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
why don't I just read it again? Those on after you will be happy to have you read it for you. So, what have you done, what would you like to do regarding environmental issues, moving Athens in a more sustainable, green, energy-efficient direction?
Okay. Well, and once again, there's always room for improvement, I think we can point to Alahu's leadership while he's been on council with many of the initiatives that we have begun. some of those in partnership with our local businesses. Can we do more partnerships? Can we attract other businesses? I would certainly hope so. One of the other ways that I think we can partner is to work with Ohio University and seize the moment as they're working on their university sustainability plan, which will be presented to the OU Board of Trustees, I think, in the coming week for them to look at their initial review of that with hopefully an acceptance by the president of the university. Are there plans in that sustainability plan for looking at replacement of the coal-fired power plant? That is something that's going to need to happen. Can we partner in such a way that we could be garnering resources, saving resources? One of the other groups that I've worked with on the OU sustainability plan has been the transportation working group, where we've had students, citizens, and university officials looking at what are the ways we can be more sustainable in our transportation, and the ways that we get around the city, and the ways that we extend the sidewalks, and the way that we extend our bike paths, both of which we have been doing in the past few years. Great headway on that. And in fact, we do have a sidewalk inventory and a long-range sidewalk plan. And so that's, I think, part of being more sustainable is encouraging all of those ways of getting around the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Goes down toward Steve, if you will. So Steve, Abraham, Elathi, with that order. I'll let the mic work its way down. Okay.
Elathi, you're not even going to have to talk when we're done. We're giving you praise all that. I am also in agreement with some of the initiatives that a number of gospel has been instrumental in bringing about. I think there's more to it than that. Sustainability to me means more than just power. It means more than clean energy. It also means I look at those solar panels that are down there at the community center, and I also, as a sustainable farmer, see water collection. I see, using those, what runoff comes off of those in a sustainable, reusable fashion. I do that at my hilltop where we farm, collect rainwater and water our crops with something like that. I'm also, I'm not going to say I'm a dreamer, but I am going to say I have been throughout the state of Ohio and seen some projects that have kind of blown my mind a little bit and think, why can't that be done here? I've been up to Upper Sandusky, Ohio, and I know the person who's the operations manager for the largest solar array currently this side of the Mississippi River. It's enormous, 4 football fields in size. The thing generates enough power to provide electricity to 1,500 homes. I scratch my head and go, why can't we do that here? I look at the Congo as a member of OU and look at that and go, why can't we put solar panels up there? I understand the whole coal-fired plant on OU's campus, but I look around and I see other ways of doing things that are sustainable, smart, logical things that keeps our society, our microcosm of Athens, a nice, clean, sustainable place.
Thank you. Right way down to Abraham.
Well, what have I done? Just on a personal level, I think it all starts back on what we do in our own home. I recycle. I've changed out my Edison bulbs to CFL bulbs. I think that's a step in the right direction for each individual. You have to take care at home first before you can go elsewhere. And once you go there, then you can step out elsewhere. I like the way the city is moving in the green energy with the solar panels. But I think something we can do better green energy-wise is wind power. I mean, during the winter, we own the property behind the rec center on the river. Let's throw up windmills there. We could use that in correlation with the solar panels, and we can have them back and forth and double that. And then also, I talked to Mr. and Mrs. Toomey, the owners of White's Mill. We have a source of energy that runs 365 days a year right at that dam, or the old dam. Why don't we look into possibly making a hydro dam there? That's constant energy that's not being used. Let's look into that. Also, communal gardening. Let's let people create their own food. I mean, food prices are rising. I'm sure you're all aware. Let's citizens grow more food on their own on public land. It'll be a way to maybe put a little bit more money back in our citizens' pockets. And then also, let's get more bike lanes. The bike lanes are great. I like them. I use them daily. Let's add more bike lanes. I mean, we're in a small town. There's no reason that we should be driving our car every place in town. Yes, maybe on a rainy day, but there are times we don't have to drive our cars. We can use the bike lanes.
Thank you. Over to Oahu.
As almost all been said. So one of the things I'd like to start off by saying is that I've been a part of a lot of initiatives that we've done in the city, but it would be impossible for it to happen without a city council that is also very actively supporting this type of work, and the mayor's office. Right now we're paying for it in the auditor's office as well, because all this takes money. And so right now we're funding energy efficiency work at the community center, the code office, the parking garage. This is not just an environmental issue, it's a finance issue. And we're investing a little over $400,000 in energy efficiency, which will pay back over 15 years, over $800,000 in energy savings and operational savings. And so this is really something we need to expand upon. I think we've done a very good job on the energy efficiency work. Looking forward to what we can do in addition to what's already being done, I'd like to see our recycling improve in terms of having some way to do recycling uptown. Member Bain, who's here, just discussed requiring commercial haulers to offer recycling to their customers. And so that's underway right now. We'll be reading that shortly. I'm also going to be exploring and have been exploring larger solar arrays, as has been mentioned. It has to be done with private companies in order to use the federal tax incentives. So it's really a partnership between government and business. They can have a lot of benefits locally. I'm out of time. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll go on to our next question in the order, just to review it quickly. Order of response: Elahu, Maxine, Christine, Nate, Abraham, Steve. And here's the seventh question. What are some ways that new or revised legislation can facilitate enforcement of the noise ordinance?
Okay, very good question. So one of the things that I think oftentimes when residents are frustrated by an issue, whether it's trash, noise, other issues like the condition of the buildings, they look for a legislative solution. And sometimes that can happen. But oftentimes we pass new legislation and it doesn't solve the problem. And so I don't know that you can't legislate away problems often. I think sometimes they're more deeply ingrained in the system of government and how they're enforcing or taking care of that issue. I said this earlier. I guess I didn't say this, but I didn't have time. I am looking at a compromise that would keep the noise initiative from going to a battle between short-term and long-term residents on the ballot. I think that wedge that would drive between different parts of our community would be too great for us to take on. I think I would only support something that Chief Pyle also supported, and I know that he would not support something that would take away his department's ability to enforce the noise ordinance. And I would like to say, from everything I've heard, the new enforcement policy has worked amazingly in most of the neighborhoods. From everything I've heard from residents that have an issue with that in close neighborhoods.
Thank you. That goes over to Maxine.
I agree with that it's not always legislation. It's the act, the act of enforcement. And from all the reports and talks I've had with Captain Pyle, I think that their office is working with this. And it is becoming an effective tool. I think there can be some compromises if they need to be. But I think in the dialogues between the students that are trying to initiate the referendum and the police department, I think that they should be able to resolve some of the differences, because a lot of the issues are, and a lot of the complaints are coming like we said before, from the students, and they're not just from the city and from the people. And it's not the police that are just first responders. They're getting complaints first.
Christine.
Thank you. I'll refer back to the information that Captain Pyle provided to us and some of his reporting. His quote is, keep in mind the noise ordinance did not change and the enforcement did. And there does, from my same accounts and talking to people in the neighborhoods, does seem to be that there's greater compliance with the noise ordinance, with the more proactive enforcement. So I'm not sure that there needs to be another legislative solution to the noise problem. Working together, once again, partnerships, relationships, building respect amongst neighbors and in our communities, I think this is essential too, along with also discussion. And I think Captain Pyle has proven too his interest in listening to the students, and it's part of that discussion and the listening on both sides that has resulted in some compromises, which I hope will lead to a solution to this noise ordinance without it having to go to a referendum.
Thank you. On down to Nate, if you will.
Chris, I think you just demoted Tom Pyle back up to captain. As I said before, when Student Senate first brought this issue up, I had warned that this would be a wedge that divides the community. And my hope upon hopes is that we can come to a compromise on this issue, because the referendum process is a tough one. I don't think new legislation is the answer, but I think Chief Pyle had it right the first time when he said that this is democracy in action. And it absolutely is. This is the democratic process. This is exactly what it comes down to. So if you have a strong opinion one way or another on the way noise enforcement is going, I would encourage you to, again, get involved. If you like the way it is now, get involved and help people who agree with you, to turn out people who think the same way. So this is just a democratic process, and if I'm elected and this does come to a referendum, I'll support however the people decide to vote, because that will be a clear statement of the community's values, and I think those are the values that, as elected officials, we should be following. Thanks.
Thank you. On down to Abraham.
Well, I mean, like Nate said, it's direct democracy at work. If citizens that are opposed to it or students that are opposed to it get out and vote against it, there stands no problem. If we don't like it, I personally don't agree with what the Student Senate has proposed, but I don't exactly agree with what the city has on the books. So, but ultimately I would vote against a student referendum if it made it to the ballot, but ultimately it comes down to direct democracy, and if the people that wanted to stay on the books get out and vote. You use your greatest tool as an American, just vote.
Okay, on down to Steve.
I'm glad we came back to this question. This is where I kind of got left when I got cut off early on. One of the things, I've met with Chief Pyle at length, and one of the things I did want to talk about is, his desire to reach compromise if compromise is possible. And one of the things that I said, because I was going through the ordinance, I've actually read the whole book of ordinance in my spare time. I was going through, and there's something that's called the nuisance party, where a fourth-degree misdemeanor can be issued after the first citation, and within an 18-month period of time. And so I was thinking, well, 6 months. Is it possible to negotiate on that time frame? And Chief Pyle said, sure, we can negotiate on the length of time. Another thing that Chief Pyle was saying is that another possibility would be to have everyone in that household sign that actual citation and turn it into the police station within a 7-day period, and that would become a warning. And and that morning then we'd go through the process. One of the things though that I kind of want to get to really quick, for the sake of time, I actually am a number cruncher, and I was sitting there looking at numbers, and I went out with squad one night, and we went out on a noise ordinance call. 2 squads pull up. It took us 5 minutes to get there. 2 squads times 2, that's 10 minutes. 10 minutes to get back again, that was 20 minutes. And then I started thinking, with the noise, if this referendum, if it goes through, we're talking about every month the clock gets reset. And I was sitting there looking at it, and it was being 18 hours a year that Ellie would be tied up with an issue like this for one household, when we are looking at, on average, 42 sexual assaults in the city of Athens in a 10-week period, quarter to quarter. There were 21 rapes last quarter. And so when I look at the amount of time that we have LE going through the neighborhoods, going down, chasing down noise ordinance issues, why can't we have that much more time spent behind the wheel and hopefully preventing something that's going to shatter someone's life for the rest of their life?
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and then the closing statements. There's always a danger off to get the closing statements, so don't let me. We need to be out of here before 8 o'clock, otherwise the doors will clank shut and you'll spend the night in here figuratively speaking. So I think we can hustle through one more question, closing statements, and we will scuttle out quickly then. So the order on these: Christine, you're first. Elahu, Abraham, Steve, Maxine, Nate, and our 8th question is: what will you do to facilitate the process of condemning and razing empty and dilapidated houses in Athens? So that's Christine first.
We had one in our neighborhood that we worked on for 11 years before we got raised down. And the city did work with us. To facilitate it, I think perhaps a stronger reporting system and sense of rapport between those reporting in the neighborhoods, the citizens in the neighborhoods reporting to the code enforcement office. There is a process that they need to go through, and that all funnels down through under the Office of the Service Safety Director. And so it does need to be inspected by our city administrative offices, and then either a citation issued, and they're either to, the person is either to improve the facility, or it's, I believe it's then condemned. I might not have all the steps correctly, but I think better communication with the city about this, houses that you all see in the neighborhoods. I think all of us can attest to, as we walked the different streets in the neighborhoods, you get used to your own street and you go to and from work each time, and then don't see some of the other problems that exist. The people that are out there in the neighborhoods are our eyes and our ears for us, and it's by bringing it to the attention of the city officials. City officials, city council members can certainly help to work with the code office, and we can work to be more efficient about that. And that's one way I think we can improve that process.
Thank you. Elahu?
Thanks. This really is an administrative responsibility and issue. And I know that I believe, and you're on, I think we've had 1 or 2 homes that have been condemned in the city in the past couple of years. State laws are involved, local policies and regulations, and there's a cost associated with each one of them. And so, as a city council, we can make sure that the resources are there if needed to pay for this type of action. As an example of a home that's been a problem and why we maybe have been seeing more of this, the economy. One of my neighbor's homes, he contacted me recently. The chimney is literally falling off of this house that it's supposed to be attached to. And the rest of the house doesn't seem to be falling in disarray, but it was in foreclosure and out of foreclosure, back in foreclosure. One bank owned it, it went to an auction. Another bank now owns it. It's in Arizona, somewhere very far away. It's difficult to track down who this is, who the actual owner is from time to time. But I think making sure we have the resources that our mayor needs in order to take care of these homes is important. I have a few seconds left, and I want to return briefly to the noise thing because I've been trying to fit this in since we had the question. I have been meeting with Chief Pyle and John Calhoun on the potential compromise, and being there as a member of council and as sort of an impartial party to try to see how we can get the best resolution that we can out of this. And just want to make sure everyone is aware of that before we leave here tonight.
Thank you. The mic goes over to Abraham.
I think that we need more resources for code to enforce this. For landlords or banks in that case, or slash homeowners, we need to hold them accountable. I know, for example, one piece of property right beside Kentucky Fried Chicken, it is a mess. I like to know what's going on with it. I think maybe we should just tear it down or force the owners to tear it down. But code needs to have the resources to enforce it, and we need to put step penalties to landlords and house owners that do this. And hopefully through step penalties we can keep the city looking good.
Thank you. The mic goes down to Steve.
I feel the same way as Abraham that the landowner needs to be held responsible and total liable for houses in delinquent and dilapidated. But on my trails walking around through the neighborhoods, I was walking through the fourth ward, and there was an individual sitting on his front porch, and he loved his house. And he was looking around, and he goes, the thing that makes me really sad is seeing some of these dilapidated houses being raised. He goes, why can't we come up with another way to deal with houses where they've been abandoned or whatever that have good bones to them? Why can't we rehab them? Can't someone rehab them? I also want to reply to something that Abe said earlier, which bothers me a little bit. And it has nothing to do with a dilapidated building, although it's kind of suggested that when you're taking the armory and raising the armory to put up a parking garage. For that, you and I differ on that. I'm a huge advocate of history. I'm a huge advocate of old buildings and beautiful structures, and I think that it would be a travesty to take away what I view, personally, as the anchor of Court Street and to remove it. I think it's a gorgeous building that can be rehabbed into an art center. It can be rehabbed into a dance hall. It can be rehabbed into something for the fine arts. If we're creative about how we go about doing it, I think the same thing can be happening in neighborhoods with old homes that have been neglected.
Thank you. Maxine?
And similarly, I don't know what funds, I don't know exactly what the process is to declare a building condemned. I'm sure it's lengthy. I know I'm on the west side, and there are several that have been sitting for a very long time, and even some that have the owners next door. A lot of times it's the owner saying, yes, I'm going to take care of it. And so I don't know what the entire process is. I would like to know more about it. I know, like in terms of the old train depot that we talked about, and the city wanted to take over and everything else, every time it was mentioned that the city was going to declare eminent domain, the owner would paint it or do something so it looked visibly changed. Even if we could get them to paint the houses that are in ill repair, if somebody were held accountable, the property owner were held accountable, not the city, not the rest of the neighborhood. I know that there is a need in this town for low-income housing, and I don't see why some of these buildings, as you were saying, cannot be put back together with it doesn't have to be Habitat for Humanity, but some volunteer group and use. Because there are a lot are very lovely. They just need help.
Thank you. The mic goes to Nate.
Oh, Nate. Sorry.
I think there have been a lot of good points made. I think we're all in agreement that the problem here is delinquent landlords, absentee landlords, not taking care of their properties because they don't have a community connection here at Athens. One thing that has been done that I think could be used to help this issue and is a step in the right direction is landlord-tenant forms. The way it works right now is that landlords are required to show a set of forms that include information on things like trash pickup, their noise, etc., to their tenants. this was a good idea. It was a step in the right direction. But let me tell you, I just signed my third lease in 3 years today, and this was the first time I've ever seen a landlord tenant. We need to do a better job enforcing that so that the people who are closest to these dilapidated rental properties know how to contact the city to do something about it. Another thing that can be done is making electronic communication a little easier. There was an article in the news recently about Sheriff Kelly's Facebook page. Why can't the code office have a Facebook page? It's really easy, and it makes communication between citizens and the city a lot easier.
Thank you, Nate. I think it's time for us to move to closing statements. We just about have time to do this. And the order was done by a random process. I'm not sure I've given this to you yet. So, Maxine, you will be first on the closing statement. Elapo second. Christine third. Abraham, Steve, and Nate. So, Maxine, Elapo, and Christine, and then I'll give you the last one. 2-minute closing statement. And Maxine, the mic is yours.
There are a lot of really good people up here. It's very interesting to hear the questions from the press, the questions from the audience, and there's a lot of concern, and it is good that there's this much involvement with the citizens of the city, because I think we all take pride in the city. That's why we live here. That's why we've stayed here. I have had a feeling that I've been a part of the city for 30 years. And I've had my hands in all kinds of different organizations that have been involved with the workings of the city and trying to bring new businesses and tourism and all kinds of just different good, positive things to the city. And I think we are going in the right direction. I know that there are a lot of problems, that there is old infrastructure that needs to be taken care of, and with funding short, I realize that everybody's pretty much doing the best they can with what they've got, and they're working and planning on it. Nobody's just sitting there and saying, oh well, we don't have any money, let's just forget it. That is not happening here. Everybody wants it to improve. The sidewalks are slated to be done. The roads have got a program. There's a comprehensive plan that is being worked on. Well, it's in the works, but I mean, there's more legislation coming up with it. I think that if I were given, I would love to be given the chance to have a louder voice by being in council and having the people talking to me so that I can direct council in a positive direction in the future.
Thank you. Elapo, followed by Christine. Elapo, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I'm often asked why my name is Elapo, and most often the response is I was born in Athens. And if you know much about Athens, that makes sense, and that's the end of the conversation. But I am who I am because I was born and raised here in Athens, and this is my home, it's my hometown, a place that I really love. I think most of us here do as well. And it's been a wonderful privilege to be able to give back and to help build up the community. I think that we're in a strange time here, sort of statewide and nationally. In Ohio, we have, I think, threats to our environment. We're looking at attacks on working families and the rights of working families. And I think it's really important now to have strong progressive Democrats elected at the local level, where we can take action at the local level, because we can make a lot of noise in Columbus and we can prepare for the future, but local government, I think, for the next year or two is going to be incredibly important in shaping the future. I think that I have a record of success on council. I think that I've been fair and open whenever I have a city issue that comes before me. I think I've been innovative and brought some new ideas, probably some youthfulness and maybe some learning that has possibly irritated some others. But it's been a lot of fun, and I think overall the city is moving in the right direction. There's always more work to do, and I think that moving forward, working on our infrastructure, we were lucky enough to get a 1-year overlap in our street levy, thanks to the citizens. We need that money badly to improve our streets, and I'll be pushing to make sure that we take care of what can sometimes seem to be little things, but on a day-to-day basis are the big things for the people within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine?
Thank you. And many thanks to the league for sharing with us, and so we have the opportunity to hear all these different perspectives of the candidates tonight and to hear your questions. I decided to run for re-election because I enjoy being involved with city operations. I really have enjoyed it, and I do think I have some leadership skills. Do we have improvements to make in the city? Yes. Have we made some improvements? Yes. And we have a very dedicated city staff, as well as some visionary council members who have brought us through making some of these changes. We do have a long-term sidewalk plan. We have a bicycle pedestrian plan. We're developing an arts and recreation long-term plan. We have a utilities plan under the leadership of Councilperson Nancy Bain, who has brought us forward with improvements to our infrastructure on Carpenter Street. We have Mill Street progress in order. We have a wastewater treatment plan improvements that are in the works. So many of these things are coming about. My belief is that the three of us who are elected to serve as council members will have as our highest priority the well-being of our community, no matter who of us is elected. We need to make sure we've provided for the roads, the water, and then beyond this, provide the leadership towards the vision of a more livable community. So I'd like to thank all of you for being part of this community and for joining us here tonight, for sharing your concerns, your ideas, and most of all, your passions about Athens. Thank you.
Thank you. Abraham?
Well, while I'm running, I'm a local. I was born and raised here. I plan on staying here after college, and I feel the best way to contribute to my community is to be a public servant. And I want to help by helping shape our community in the right direction. Also, in closing, I'd like to kind of respond to what Steve said earlier about the armory. To bring it up to code, it would cost about $1 million, if I'm not quoting the Athens News wrong. And that's, I think, a little hard to shell out right now in an economic downturn. And then also, one of my 3 main issues that I didn't get to put out other than city infrastructure and being a servant to the people of Athens is Athens City water quality. Our water, I notice when I take a drink of water, it kind of smells like a swimming pool. I'd like to look into other methods of sanitizing the water other than chlorine. There are others out there like UV light, and there's a few others, but I won't get into them. Also, I'm aware that the city of Athens needs a backup generator. I talked to Crystal Kennard, the director of the city water treatment plant, and we have a generator that partly runs the plant if the power's down, but she wants something that will completely run the plant if the power goes out due to bad weather or tornado. So I think we need to invest in something where our water can run even when our power's out, but water is the most essential thing to life. And if we can't even give that to people during our power outage, I mean, we've got some problems. I mean, we have one for the water waste plant, so people can flush the toilets, but what's going to go back into it? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mike goes down to Steve, and then to Nate.
You know, again, I want to thank everyone in this room for being here tonight. This is democracy in action. You're here to hear what we have to say. We're here. I wish we could flip the mic around and sit there and ask questions of the people sitting in the audience, which would be great. However, unfortunately, since we only get a minute and 30 seconds, I can't imagine what someone else might be doing. However, I have lived in a multitude of cities. I've lived in over 13 or 14 cities in my lifetime, some large, some small, from Portland, Oregon to Washington, D.C., from Grand Forks, North Dakota to Memphis. I've been in a number of places. When I rolled into Athens, Ohio, I knew that this is the place that I want to spend the rest of my days. I really do. I'm attached to this place. It has the best farmers market, one of the top 10 in the nation. I'd like to see better bus service on a regular basis going to farmers market. I think the students in my classroom would like to see that as well. There are things that need to be improved. Look, leadership-wise, I have served our nation. I served active duty for 8.5 years. I served 13 years, 14 years as a member of the DC Air National Guard protecting Washington, DC. This is our land. Now I'm part of this city. I want to serve in this city as part of the land. I enjoy services. I have, again, been involved in faculty senate. I've been involved in a lot of other functions on campus, which is really services. We don't get paid for doing those extra services. We just do them if we're elected to those posts. Again, I think with one of the things I've thought about is the thought of reducing the salary of myself on city council if I get on city council, because it is a service responsibility, something that I would take with pride, and I think that I would do a great job of being on city council.
Thank you. Nate?
Hey, stop talking about water. You make me thirsty. First I want to give my thanks to both the league for putting these events on, and to all of you for coming out. Steve's absolutely right. This is democracy in action. This is exactly what it's all about. And I think we have 6 fantastic candidates up here. All of them strong Democrats. Who needs the Republicans? We don't need them. When you ran for president in 2008, President Obama said 2 things that really stuck with me. The first was that yes, we can heal this nation. And the other was that change comes from the bottom up, not the top down. So if we're going to heal our nation, we have to start by healing our communities. And that's why I'm running for council, because I want to bridge that gap between students and non-students, and work together on the issues that we agree on, because there are a lot of them. Local government is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to governing, and it's essential that we maintain our services in tough times like these. And the only way we can really do that with the budgets that are coming up is through volunteerism. And that's also one way we can bridge this gap between students and non-students. People working together, volunteering together to make the community they live in a better place. I think I've demonstrated my commitment and dedication through my work to get the right people elected, whether it be Barack Obama in 2008, keeping Chris Fall in her council seat in 2009, and trying to keep Ted Strickland and Debbie Phillips in there for us in Columbus this past year. I think these are tough times, but I have the energy to work for you and make sure that we have a bright future together. Thanks.
Thank you, Nate. And I want to thank all of you candidates. I feel as though I know all of you as a result of being here with you this evening. Fred Kite, I apologize for the inconvenience to you. I have no idea where that email came from, and I haven't seen it. But I want to thank all of you representatives of the media, Sarah Brumfield, the Messenger, Wesley Lowry of the Post, Fred Kite, WOUB, and David Whitney at the Hills. You will always play a key role in our evening. I want to thank the library and the League of Women Voters, and let me thank Elaine Mather and Tim Foran over here. And other questions, and Mary Lee Powell, who greeted and gathered the questions, and Mary O'Brien for doing the timekeeping. And so you always get a little wrap up from me, but this is just going to be a few words. A magnificent embodiment of our form of government is sort of the way I would sum this up this evening. This is a thrill to me to participate in something like this. Thanks all of you for coming, and we have about 5 minutes and 3 seconds to get out the door, or we won't get to come back. Thanks for coming.